This is part one of a two-part video series that we're putting together of the methods that you can use to create a parenting plan. Now, in some other videos, we talked about some of the contents that actually go into the parenting plan, but in this video, we're going to actually talk about how you put those plans together. Now, this video is going to be primarily focused on mediation, explaining what it is, why you need it, and how it might help your case. But before you actually even go to mediation, there's an easier way, an easier method, if you will, of how you can create a parenting plan. That method is simply come to an agreement. There are some tools and resources available to you online that you and your spouse can work together with. And if you can create an agreement without going to mediation, you've actually made this very easy on yourself. So what you need to do is you need to write that agreement down and you present it to the judge, and you can skip mediation altogether. But if that's not easy for you, pay attention to this video and we're going to explain what mediation is, what to expect, and how you can use it for your case. So what is mediation? Well, first of all, let's take a step back and recognize that mediation is something that's going to take place outside of court. It's going to be done by a certified mediator who may or may not be an attorney, depending upon where you live. They're usually done by an attorney, but I don't want you to think that that makes it binding or non-binding, because mediation is non-binding. Now, what does that mean? It basically means you can't be locked into any sort of agreement that you have during mediation. So if you go into mediation and you think you have an agreement, it still gives you some time to think things over, to discuss with your attorney if you have one, before it gets presented to a judge. Now, there's two things that are really, really important that you need to understand about mediation. First, it is non-binding, meaning you're not locked into anything. You're there to speak freely, to come up with an agreement, but if you're not sure after you go to mediation, you're not locked into anything. So speak freely and be open to different ideas. The second thing that's really, really important is that it's confidential. So in other words, if you say something during mediation, it can't be used against you later. So for example, let's say that you propose a parenting plan of ABC during mediation, and ultimately you don't end up with it. The other side can't come back later and say, well, you offered ABC during mediation and therefore we should just do that. The point is, we want people to speak freely, to be open, to have compromise. And the only way that works is if we keep it confidential and we keep it non-binding. All right, let's talk about how to prepare for mediation. Now, the good thing is there's nothing that's really going to stick or be binding, as we just talked about, but that doesn't mean you should just blow this off and go in unprepared. It's a good idea to speak with your attorney, to have a general game plan of what you might want the outcome to look like. You should have some general principles in mind, but you should be open to other possibilities. The fact is, this is not a cookie cutter situation where there's a one-size-fits-all situation for everybody. You have to go in and focus on your case. So you should have some general ideas and some things that you're open to. You can also have some things that you're not willing to compromise on. But you should talk with your attorney about that before you go to mediation and be open to possibilities. Then after mediation, you can go back and speak with your attorney and confirm what you agreed to and maybe why you changed your mind. Again, it's important to recognize that this is non-binding. So if you go into mediation and you make an agreement that you're later regretting, it's okay. You and your attorney can work together and undo what you may have agreed to, because it's confidential and it's not going to the judge anyway. All right, so now that you know that you're not going to be stuck with an agreement and that it's also confidential, let's talk about how to prepare for mediation. Now, first I want to explain to you that mediation can work even in the most difficult situations. I've been surprised with some of my clients who thought they would never agree with their spouse on anything, and they come out with a full agreement in mediation. The fact is, you have to understand that mediation is usually going to be to help with your children, to come up with a parenting plan for you. And I want you to understand that either you're going to agree to it or the judge is going to make a decision. It's that simple. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be better off with an agreement that you come up with, even if it's not everything you want, versus leaving it in the judge's hands, which you may or may not get anything that you want. So mediation is really, really important, but you gotta have a game plan. You need to meet with your attorney. You need to go over some of your goals. You need to go over some of the things that quite frankly you wouldn't compromise on, and then go over the things that you might be open to. Being open is the key to mediation. Don't go in there with hard, fast, it's gotta be everything I want, because that's not really gonna work. So go in with an open mind and communicate with your attorney about the results. All right, finally, if mediation doesn't work, in the next video, we're gonna be talking about a GAL, also known as a guardian ad litem. We're also briefly gonna touch upon a 604.10, something we used to call a 604B. Stick around for the next video and we'll give you that information.